This is the plaintiff, Tavis Dunbar. He says his neighbor's old tree fell on his car, damaging it, and the guy refuses to pay for the repairs. This car was a gift from his grandfather, and he just wants his car fixed properly. He's suing for $2,500, the amount he's owed for repairs. This is the defendant, Ronell. He says the plaintiff's car doesn't even run and is only worth a measly $600. Besides, he's not even convinced the tree that fell that night during a storm is his, and he has no proof from the plaintiff to back up his claims on whose tree it is. This guy's just looking for money for a car, which was already in horrible shape, and he's not paying this scammer a cent. He's accused of not being very neighborly.
All parties, please use your right hand.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff says his neighbor's old tree crashed down on his car and he won't pay. But the defendant says the car is a clunker. He's not even sure it's his tree. It's the case of, I fell for you.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Tavis Dunbar, you are suing your neighbor, Ronell. You've asked us not to mention your last name, for $2,517 in damages to your 1994 Chevy Camaro. Tell me what's going on.
Well, I DJ at night. A late night, I was coming home, and I noticed that it was a tree in my parking spot. And when I pulled up closer to it, I noticed that that tree
Had there been a storm?
Yeah, it had just rained recently, that same night. I noticed that that tree had hit my Camaro, so I called 311.
How big was the tree?
It was pretty big. I have pictures of it after he came and got it and cut it up and stuff like that.
How tall? Do you remember the tree? Like, was it a tree that you had seen always because you lived there, or?
I mean, I've always seen the tree. It was,
How tall is tall?
I would say it was probably about, roughly about 6 or 7 feet.
Okay.
Or something like that.
So what happens? You come home and you see that it's been uprooted by the storm.
Exactly.
And it hit your car?
And it hit my car.
Okay.
The rear quarter panel.
Okay.
The quarter panel.
All right. You said you had pictures. Can I see the pictures?
Yes.
Is there a fence between your properties or no?
Yes.
No.
And is the tree on the other side of the fence?
The tree was on the other side of the fence.
And
yes.
then it came into your side, which is why we're here. All right. So what happened that night? Do you know?
I came to the back of my property, and I seen the tree laying down.
Is that because of the storm?
Yes, it was real windy, like 60-mile-an-hour winds. And it
Did
was
you
raining.
summon the wind?
No.
You
No.
didn't?
No, even though it's the Windy City, I didn't summon it, no.
Okay.
But I seen the tree laying down, not on his car, but next to the car, so I came and knocked on his door to let him know I'd be cutting that tree up the next day. So as soon as I knock on his door, he came out, he say, I say, you notice the tree on the ground? He said, yeah. He said, I called the police. I said, the police? He said, yeah.
That's a pretty big tree. It's a lot bigger than I thought it was. It had to be bigger than 7 feet.
15, it's about
Yeah, it had to be.
13,
I mean, just
15 feet.
looking at the size of it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And that's the dent into your quarter panel. That's very significant.
And I also have pictures before the
Yeah.
damage.
But here's the thing, though, that I need to ask you is, I'm looking at the tree, and this is a really good video because it shows me that this is a completely healthy tree, because I can see the inside of the bark in the beginning of the video. So what did he do that would require him to pay for your car?
Well, once
In other words, how is this not just an act of God? There's a storm. Bad things happen in a storm. You know, what we punish in court is bad behavior on the part of people, something that they did wrong. For example, the tree is decaying, and he knows that's dangerous, and he should know, and he doesn't bother to prune the tree or take the tree out, or, you know, something that the person does wrong. What did he do wrong? It's a perfectly healthy tree, and then there was a storm.
That's a good thing that you said that, Your Honor. Because after the fact that the tree had hit my car, and then I also talked to my landlord of the building about the situation, he told me that he should have been cut the tree down because they had already talked about the tree dying already.
Can you prove that? Or is that, because
Besides.
is that just words coming out of your mouth, or can you
That's-
prove what you just said? Because you never mentioned that before in your complaint or anywhere else, so I'm going to require some proof on what you're saying. Otherwise, it's just
The
what we
only-
call
no.
rank hearsay.
So if the tree falls, is the tree owner automatically responsible?
I think that's sort of what insurance is for, so I would assume, it is their fault.
Well, forget about insurance. Do you think the owner is responsible if the tree falls?
Yes, I do. Absolutely their fault.
Even if it's a big storm. What is a big storm?
If it's a big storm, I think the owner have responsibility still.
Wow. Going inside the courtroom.
The only way I would be able to prove that if I gave him a phone call. But
Well, here's the thing, though. Had this tree been decaying at all?
No, not that I know of.
And had the landlord to the building ever talked to you about the tree?
No,
Ever at all?
no.
Anything at all, like trim it or
I
something?
don't even talk to the landlord next door.
Okay.
No.
Do you know him?
I know him. I don't talk to him. No.
Why don't you talk to him?
I'm just not that type of person who talks to my landlord. I mind my business and stay on my property.
Yeah, you're what we call out of gas on this, because it's not his responsibility unless you can prove that it's his responsibility. He did not summon the wind in the Windy City. This is the classic act of God that I am looking at. A tree got uprooted by 60-mile-an-hour winds, and that tree ended up doing damage. But that is not his fault unless you can prove it is, and you have provided zero proof that it is his fault, that there was anything wrong with the tree beforehand or any notice to him about it. And I'm particularly surprised because you're a person who comes into court with pictures and everything else, and then supposedly you have this evidence from your landlord that he was on notice that the tree was decayed. That'd be great if I saw evidence of a tree decay. I'm seeing the opposite of it in your evidence, which is that the bark was completely healthy. But I would expect a guy who comes with this evidence to have an affidavit from his landlord if that conversation had happened. You don't? I'm here now. The trial's over. Verdict for the defendant. I find this to be an act of God.
So the judge rules the tree's damage, or rather the tree's falling, was an act of God. So you're out of luck on this case. You should have had some evidence to bring with you, as like testimony from somebody or some written
well,
statement.
yes, she did say that I should have had evidence from my landlord
Yeah.
to back that up. I didn't, I didn't think that I would need that after showing the video, or whatever, that the tree did hit it. I understand that it
hit
wasn't
but it was
his
an act
fault,
of God. That's
but yeah.
according to the judge. That's the way it is.
I understand
right?
that it wasn't his fault, but it was off his property, which means that
Well, you've learned a lesson.
yes.
Sorry about that.
All right.
Okay. Now here comes the defendant, Mr. Ronell. Did you realize how this was going to end up before you came in? I mean, did you know that you weren't going to be responsible?
I pretty much know.
Pretty much
Yes.
so?
Yes, sir.
Were you surprised to get sued?
No.
You mean you thought you were going to get sued?
It happens. It
You're not
happens all the
surprised at
time,
all?
yeah.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Harvey?
The key is putting people on notice. Email your neighbor, say you have an old tree and it's about to fall. That means they'll be liable if it does.